All right, 5th grade, we have your ELA test. If you've already taken the math test, then you know this information, but just in case you haven't, if you are taking the computer-based test, you do not have to watch this video as you're taking the test. If you have the paper-based test like I have in front of me, then you can watch this video as you are taking the test, and I can read the questions out loud to you. I cannot read the articles or the stories, but I can read the questions. So here is the ELA score sheet. This is the recording sheet where you put all of your answers. So once you found the answer to a problem or a question, you're going to fill them out on this page. This is the first page of the first story. It's called Phyllis's Big Test. And this is actually printed just a little bit out of order. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to look at your paper-based test if you have it, and figure out the pages, what order the pages are supposed to be in. So this is the first page of the article that you're supposed to read first before answering the questions. Then it accidentally jumps to the title page for this test. That was supposed to be right before the scoring sheet, I think, or right before this article, but that's okay. The next page is question 1, but you don't want to do that yet. You want to read this passage, and then here is the rest of the passage. If you notice, it goes from paragraph 10 down here, and then find paragraph 11 up here. Then after you've read that, we will go back to question 1. So go ahead and read the passage, and then pause here to read the passage, and then come back to answer the question. Question 1, in paragraph 19 of Phyllis's Big Test, what is the meaning of the phrase testifying to? Offering, exhibiting, confirming, or representing? Part B, which sentence from the article helps the reader understand the meaning of the phrase testifying to as it is used in paragraph 19? A, she would make her own way to the public hall where a group of men would decide once and for all, was she or was she not the author of her poems? B, she had spent recent evenings copying and recopying her poetry in her own neat handwriting. C, she was not content to recite her verse in drawing rooms or read one of her poems from a newspaper. D, she wanted her own book because books would not just last a lifetime. They would be there for her children and her children's children. This was the second page of the first passage. So I'm going to skip that page. Question number 2. According to the article, Phyllis's Big Test, which statement explains Phyllis Wheatley's relationship with her master and his family? A, they treated her as a servant. B, they supported her as a writer. C, they provided her with transportation. Or D, they named her after a ship. Part B, which sentence from the article provides support for the answer to part A? A, one crisp early autumn morning in 1772, Phyllis Wheatley was crossing the Boston cobblestones with a sheaf of papers held tightly under her arm. B, she was just shedding her front teeth when John Wheatley bought her on the Boston docks as a servant for his wife Susanna. C, they christened their new slave Phyllis, the name of the slave ship on which she arrived. Or D, she started to turn away, but then Susanna Wheatley's words echoed in her head, "Your talent will speak for itself." Question 3, Part A. Which statement best expresses the main ideas of the article? Phyllis memorized her poetry by copying it, and she was fully prepared to pass her exam. B, Phyllis was grateful to her new family and she wrote poetry to describe her experiences with them. C, Phyllis enjoyed writing poetry and she was encouraged to publish her work. Or D, Phyllis was motivated by literature to express herself and she overcame challenges to become a poet. Part B, which two details from the article support the answer to Part A? Make sure you choose two of these. A, she knew every line, every syllable by heart. B, she survived only by the kindness of her masters, especially the Wheatley's twins. C, she began to read poetry. Glorious sonnets had inspired her to try her own handwriting. D, over time she had come to appreciate her own time and place, her very own role in the chain of events. E, but she knew that she must now make the most of her opportunities. F, but she must first pass this examination to make her dream come true. Question 4, Part A. What is the difference between Phyllis's audience at the Wheatley's home and the men at the exam? A, the Wheatley audience reads her poetry before she recites it. B, the men at the exam require her to prove herself. C, the Wheatley audience includes highly educated people. Or D, the men at the exam are greater in number. Part B, which paragraph from Phyllis's Big Test provides evidence to support the answer to Part A? Paragraph 11, paragraph 13, paragraph 14, or paragraph 16. You might need to go back and reread some of those to know the answer for that. Number 5, how does the author use evidence to support the point that Phyllis was determined to succeed? A, by showing that she stayed busy reading literature. B, by showing that she worked hard and had future plans. C, by showing that she was independent and had strong opinions. Or D, by showing that she received support and a good education. Part B, which two details from the article supports the answer in Part A? Don't forget to have two details again for this one. A, had offered her a ride to her examination, but she preferred to walk. B, could not be taken away, no matter the outcome of today. C, they taught her not just English, but Latin and Greek. D, she had stayed up late night after night preparing for the examination. E, she wanted her own book because books would not just last a lifetime. Or F, she hurried by the bookseller's shop that she visited weekly. Question 6, Part A. Based on information in Phyllis's Big Test, what is the main reason that Phyllis works hard to pass the examination? A, to gain fame as a poet. B, to show her skill at reciting poetry. C, to make the Wheatley family proud. D, to achieve what she thinks she is meant to do. Part B, which two sentences provide evidence in Part A? Which two sentences? As she began to read poetry, glorious sonnets had inspired her to try her own hand at writing. B, your talent will speak for itself. C, they will discover the poet we know you to be. D, over time she had come to appreciate her own time and place, her very own role in the chain of events stretching from past to present. E, but she knew that she must now make the most of her opportunities. Or F, I am the poet, Phyllis Wheatley. Okay, here's the next passage called A Town's History. You'll need to pause here to be able to read that to yourself. And there are 2 pages of this passage. After you're finished reading that passage, you can answer questions, the next few questions. Question number 7. The following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then an answer part B. Part A. Read the sentence. She must have sweltered in that outfit like I do when I wear a sweatshirt on a warm day, she thought. What does sweltered mean as it is used in the sentence? A, look nice. B, felt very hot. C, been proud of herself. Or D, thought she was stylish. Which phrase from the sentence best shows how Lily relates to the woman's clothing in the photograph? A, must have. B, in that outfit. C, like I do. Or D, warm day. Which one shows that she relates to them? What is similar in Lily observing pictures and Lily observing journals? A, both show it was hot. B, both show Lily's interest in history. C, both show a problem people had in the past. Or D, both show a time Lily was bored in class. 9, read the sentences from the text. Lily glanced up at the clock in the front of the classroom. The minute hand was crawling much too slowly. There was still more than an hour until lunchtime, and Lily could already hear her stomach complaining. She slumped down in her seat and started to fiddle with the pencils on her desk. What does the use of the phrase, hear her stomach complaining, suggest about Lily? Select 2 phrases. You're selecting 2 answers. A, she felt upset about her class. B, she was hungry. C, she was poking herself with a pencil and it hurt. D, her stomach was making noises because she wanted lunch. Or E, she was complaining about being bored in class. Number 10, the following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, read the sentences from the text. I'm going to let you read these sentences. What does the idiom flown by mean? A, the clock flew in the sky. B, moved very slowly. C, went to the next class. Or D, time seemed to go quickly. Part B, which detail from the text best supports your answer in part A? A, it was already 12:30. B, looked up at the clock. C, you'll have to go to lunch. Or D, couldn't wait to find out. Number 11, the following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, what is the theme of the text? A, history can be interesting. B, some surprises are pleasant. C, traveling on the Oregon Trail was hard. Or D, people should keep journals about what they do. Part B, which detail from the text best supports your answer in part A? So this is the evidence that will support whatever your answer was up here. A, all week Lily and her classmates had been trying to guess the speaker's identity. B, that's right. Today I'm going to tell you about some of the first settlers in our town. C, other people find old journals and mementos when they are cleaning out their houses. Or D, what kinds of stories could Lily find in those journals? She couldn't wait to find out. Number 12, the following question has 2 parts. First answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, how does Lily's change from the beginning to the end of the story? A, now she wants to look for items at her grandma's house. B, now she likes to look at photographs. C, she thinks the speaker's topic is interesting. Or D, she can't wait for lunch. Part B, which detail from the text best supports your answer in part A? This is the evidence that will support your answer for part A. A, she knew her grandmother kept family letters and journals. B, Lily liked looking at the photographs that demonstrated what people had worn back then. C, I'm going to share some of these historic treasures with you today. Or D, I know you all have to go to lunch. Question 13. At what point in the text is it clear that a town's history is realistic fiction? Provide a key example of this. It'd be a good idea to quote the story, at least using one sentence to prove that answer.